Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Our program will begin in just a moment. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Our program will begin in just a moment. Good day. Welcome to Advocacy Anywhere, powered by American Jewish Committee. Advocacy Anywhere is AJC's digital platform that enables you to engage with AJC's global expertise, content, and advocacy from wherever you are. With the Taliban seizing control in Afghanistan and Iran continuing its efforts to assert power in the region, uncertainty looms for millions of people, especially women, whose rights are hanging in the balance. Joining us today is Iranian journalist, author, and women's rights campaigner Masih Alinejad to discuss the evolving human rights situation in the region and her efforts to highlight Tehran's abuses. Moderating today's conversation is AJC Europe Managing Director Simone Rodan Benzaken. After we hear from our guest, time permitting, we will take your questions. You may email your question to questions@ajc.org, questions is plural, or use the Q&A feature in Zoom. Simone, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Claire. Hello, Masih.
Hi, thank you so much for having me again.
It's such a pleasure to speaking to you once again. So much has happened over the past weeks since we last spoke. It nearly appears like years from, of course, as was just mentioned, the retreat from Afghanistan to the kidnapping attempt of you by 4 Iranian operatives. Actually just happened so that we spoke literally one day before that became public. Maybe if we can start out with that particular story, because it made the headlines really all over the world. Can you explain to us what happened? Why do you think the Iranian regime wants to kidnap you? And what do you know?
First of all, I have to say that I am a journalist and activist, and my job is to give a voice to voiceless people, to those who have no chance inside Iran, inside Afghanistan, to express themselves. So when the regime actually trying to kidnap me, harass my family, arrest my family members, that means they want to keep these people who sending videos to me silent. They want to take my focus away from my own work, from my job. That is why, I'm going to be honest with you, anytime when I got invited to go to CNN, Channel 4, France 24, Al Jazeera, different media like ABC News, Australian news, Canadian news, I used the opportunity to actually do my job. That's it. So that's why I'm going to do the same here. When you say what happened to the kidnapping plot, I'm going to say that the FBI stopped that. Now I want to talk about what's going on in Iranian prison right now. There are so many leaked videos which shows you that the security cameras inside prison were hacked by some of the hackers. And now the whole world is witnessing what we, the activists and journalists, have been saying for years and years. Beatings, torturing, horrible situation inside Evin prison, which is one of the notorious prisons. My brother was there as well. But luckily, I was the luckiest one that because of all the pressure, because of all the media putting pressure on them, my brother got released from prison. But Behnam Mahjoubi recently got killed because of the horrible situation in Evin prison. Sattar Beheshti, a blogger, got killed. And I talked to his mother. His mother told me that the interrogator himself told her that I was beating your son, but because he was laughing, it made me angry. Then I beaten him up to death. So I remember for years and years, I've been talking to Sattar's mothers, Behnam's mothers, to a lot of people who got killed in Iran prison about the situation, about the brutality of the regime, but they were denying that. Now, here you are. You can see among all those videos that how political prisoners, innocent prisoner, being beaten up. One of the prisoner barely can walk, but still they beaten him up. And another prisoner, because of the horrible situation, he smashed a mirror trying to commit suicide. You see that how gay and trans people being kept in the basement of Evin prison. In the first place, they should not be in prison. This is a discriminatory, this is a barbaric action. And that is why I strongly believe that my job is actually to highlight the situation of political prisoners right now and call on all human rights organizations, international community to take a strong action. The reason that the government want to keep people like me silent, it's just because of exposing this brutality. It's just because of ruining the fake narrative of those, some of the so-called reformist activists trying to say that let's reformists to deal with human rights abuse within the society. We cannot do anything within the society. That is why we have to name and shame all the international, like all the Western countries who voted for Islamic Republic to be in a top committee in the United Nations to monitor human rights. I want to name and shame all those democratic countries, free countries who voted for the Islamic Republic to monitor human rights across the world, while the situation of human rights is this. Sorry, I just didn't answer the kidnapping plot, because I know that this is the regime want me to do.
They want to silence you.
They want to take my focus away and talking only about the kidnapping plot. But I want to use the opportunity and say that kidnapping, killing, torturing is in the nature of the Islamic Republic. For 42 years. And before me, they kidnapped another journalist called Ruhollah Zam from France to Iraq, and then they executed him. So they wanted to do this to me, but the FBI foiled the plot, and that is why I am the luckiest one. I have the opportunity to talk about the terrible human rights records and call the international community to understand that. Otherwise, we're going to name and shame them.
First of all, just for those of your audience, of our audience here who are not yet following you on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, where you have hundreds and thousands, actually millions of followers, I would urge you please all to follow Masih, because she's a source of information, of inspiration, really to many of us, including where you now recently see a lot of those images that you just spoke about, Masih, from those leaked videos of the prison in Iran.
Yes,
Masih, let me ask you.
This is very important for me, and thank you for highlighting the issue. I got goosebumps by watching the videos. You know,
it's horrible.
It is horrible, and many families are on Twitter. They're expressing how they feel by watching them. There is one activist, environmental activist, Sam Rajabi, is in prison, the same notorious prison. Guess what his sister wrote on Twitter? His sister wrote that anytime there is another video from inside the prison, I'm just searching for my brother. I'm just looking to see whether my brother is there or not. So this is very heartbreaking. It's not easy. And that is why I didn't want to talk about myself, because I know that I'm safe here now. And let's talk about the people who are having family members in prison, and the women of Afghanistan as well.
Maybe we can speak a little bit nevertheless about yourself, and sort of, because you sort of mentioned it, you mentioned your fact that your brother was in prison. You paid a very high price for everything that you've been doing since you left Iran, actually in Iran itself, because you yourself were in prison. Could you just sort of maybe in a few words say a little bit about,
in a few words, yeah,
you know, in a few words about about your life story?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for pushing me to talk about my story, because I know this is important as well, because I'm one of the example among all those women who are suffering from a religious dictatorship. Doesn't matter in Iran or in Afghanistan. Okay, I'm going to tell you about my story. I grew up in a very, very tiny village, in a very poor family. I never had a clue about discrimination or equality or feminism, never. Because I grew up under Sharia law, and I was told that if I show my hair, I'm going to be hanged from this hair in the hell. I grew up in a country where I had just black and white TV in my small village, and watching all the clerics telling me that my body can take me into trouble, because if I don't cover my body, both of us, if we go in public like this, then we can provoke men. Then if we get raped, this is going to be our fault. So I grew up in such a society, which recently you can see that Taliban is saying exact same thing that we have experienced 42 years ago, that we're giving freedom to women, but in the framework of Sharia law. This is how I grew up. So I didn't have any educational system teaching me how to fight, but I had a little brother. I mean, not little brother, he was 2 years older than me. And he was the symbol of freedom for me, because from the age of 7, I was watching him. He was allowed to ride a bicycle. He was allowed to go to stadium. He was allowed to jump in a beautiful river in my tiny village, in my beloved village. He was allowed to show his hair. He was allowed to go and sing every thing that I was envying. Yes, I had no clue about equality, but I found out from early age that there is something wrong, that I get kicked out from everywhere just because of being a woman, because of being a girl, 7-year-old girl. From the age of 7, if you don't cover yourself in Iran under Sharia law, you won't be able to go to school. You won't be able to get an education. You won't be able to get to go to university, to get a job. You won't be able to exist if you say that I don't want to cover myself, if you say that I don't want to follow Sharia law. So that is why I, like millions of other women, I started my fight against all these discrimination from early age without even knowing that I'm fighting for my rights. I was just fighting to jump in the river, to ride a bicycle. That's all. So then when I became a teenager, I got expelled from high school because of asking so many questions. Then I got arrested when I was only 19 years old because of joining student activists, spreading pamphlets around. I was pregnant when I was in jail with my brother, my ex-husband, my ex-sister-in-law. Then I became a journalist. I got kicked out from Iranian parliament just because of exposing the corruption, asking so many questions. So I became a columnist because of criticizing the former president of Iran. Again, I got myself into trouble. I was summoned by one of the notorious judge called Saeed Mortazavi, who killed Iranian Canadian journalist Zahra Kazemi. So you see, I got kicked out from everywhere at the end from my beloved homeland. But I'm going to finish the longest story here. They think that they kicked me out from my beloved country, Iran, but they couldn't take Iran away from me. My mom used to tell me that I was a naughty girl. Anytime when I was like making mess around, my father was like putting me in a room, lock the door. My mom used to say that you were able to find a window to sneak into the same room. Now, I found my window to sneak into Iran. Every day I am there. They kick me out, but my window is my social media. I have 7 million followers, more than the supreme leader of Iran. And this is the power of ordinary people who are following me, sending me videos. They want to express themselves. And this is my window. I'm allowing the rest of the world to see the brave people of Iran, the mothers of those people who got killed. They're not going to keep silent. So this is what I have been doing. This is my work, my job, and this is a shortest story about myself. The regime did everything to keep me silent. First of all, they said that I was raped by 3 men. They said that on Iranian national television. I was raped by 3 men. It was a big lie. But imagine if I was raped. It's not my fault. But they say that in a really happy way on Iranian national television, that Masih was raped. Yes, this is the mindset of this regime. Then they actually arrested the women of the campaign that I launched, White Wednesdays campaign. Immediately, they made a new law saying that if anyone sent videos to Masih Alinejad will be charged up to 10 years prison. I got bombarded by videos from women, from mothers who lost their beloved one. That didn't stop people. Then they went after my family. They interrogated my 70-year-old mother. They brought my sister on TV to disown me publicly. They arrested my brother to keep me silent, to make me feel guilty. They did everything to punish me and to make me silent. But I'm not going to keep silent. As far as the people of Iran saying no to Islamic Republic, challenging such a brutal regime, I am going to give them a voice. And I'm not going to give up when I see a lot of brave women, like heroes, brave young men sacrificing their life, taking to the streets and saying no to Islamic Republic. I'm not going to keep silent.
Masih, we'll speak later about courage and inspiration. But I would like to ask you maybe a little bit sort of a policy question, if I may. Actually, I have two. When the Iranian regime says we want Israel to be eradicated, people say it's just words, it's just, hyperbole. What do you think of this? Is this just hyperbole? Or
No, I strongly believe that the Islamic Republic has three main pillars. One is death to Israel. Second is death to America. And third is compulsory hijab, is women's rights issue. So, and that is why when they're saying something, it's not just in theory, they mean it. And this is actually their ideology. And they're killing people for their own ideology. That is why we, the people of Iran, trying actually to say that do not downplay a regime which exists by creating war in the region, by opposing war on its own people. This is the nature of the Islamic Republic. And I have to actually make it clear as well that there is a huge difference between the regime and the people. I always want to actually say that when people even call it, even the title of your event was about Tehran, it is nothing to do with Tehran or Iran. We have to make it clear that
the regime.
We have two countries. I mean, yeah, in theory, we have one country called Iran. But in reality, we have two countries. It's one Iran, the other is Islamic Republic, which took Iran hostage. And that is why I have to say that Iranian people strongly believe that the regime took the whole nation hostage and trying actually for its own survival to keep Israel and America like enemy, to encourage people saying that these are our enemies and we have to fight with our foreign enemies. We have to get united. But the reality is totally different. The young generation avoid, in so many videos, you can see that. The young generation avoid even to step on the flag of the two countries, Israel and America. Every time when you go to university, you see these flags are there. And we were forced to step on the flags. But new generation, they are powerful and brave. They took to the street loudly and clearly said that they are lying to us. Our enemy is not America. Our enemy is the Islamic Republic. In a Persian way, it's beautiful. دروغ میگن دشمن ما آمریکاست. دشمن ما همینجاست. Actually, it means they are lying to us, saying that our enemy is America. Our enemy is here in Iran. So they mean it, but people are now became more powerful. And they are chanting their manifest like in the streets of more than 100 cities when there were two massive protests trying to send this message to the rest of the world that we have a common enemy, the whole world. It was not even in Iran. I remember that the people in Lebanon, they took to the street as well. People in Iraq, they took to the street. Both countries were chanting the same slogan, saying, you know, we don't want Islamic Republic to interfere in our politics. So this is the reality. The Islamic Republic are looking for war in the region for its own survival. But people, they don't want war. They want to be friends with all the countries. They don't want to be isolated. They don't want to be isolated. This is our regime, and this is their ideology.
The second policy question I have for you is one that has been, you know, occupying much of American attention for the past decade, really, and that is the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA. The current administration, American administration, seems very eager to re-enter the JCPOA. What's your view on that?
Look, I'm going to be honest with you. From the beginning, when the nuclear deal happened, people were quite hopeful. People took to the street, a few of people, they celebrated, and they were saying that the next deal should be human rights deal. But we had two massive protests in Iran. People never chanted against America or President Trump's administration who pulled out from the deal. People were chanting against the regime and asking a clear question. Where is the benefit of the deal? Why you send the money to Syria, to Hamas, to Hezbollah? That was a clear question that were challenging actually the deal. Because a lot of people might say that, you know, after the deal, and the regime opened the door, there were like business going to happen. Iranian people didn't want to be isolated. But the working class, not this time I'm not talking about just the middle class, the working class were the one actually took to the street in protesting against the regime and clearly sending a signal to the rest of the world that when you trust this regime, when you give this regime money, when you have a deal with this regime without considering about human rights abuse, basically you empowering such a regime to help its own allies in Syria, in Lebanon. And this is not me saying that. Hassan Nasrallah, actually, there are many videos. He admits that loudly, that all the guns and money that we have, thanks to the Islamic Republic. We have even our own officials admitting that. Javad Zarif, the foreign minister of Iran, saying that we are so proud that although we were under pressure, although we were under sanction, but we helped our allies in Syria, in Hamas, in Iraq. So that is why I don't have any hope about a nuclear deal. And I have to say that in my meeting with Jake Sullivan in White House, in my meeting with Secretary Blinken, in my meeting with the previous Secretary of State, I actually expressed myself clearly that this is a betrayal when you just want to have a deal with the Islamic Republic without considering human rights, without even talking about human rights. We cannot say that human rights should be separated from nuclear deal. This is a wrong narrative which has been promoted by some of the lobbyists who are calling themselves so-called moderate lobbyists or moderate activists or so-called reformist activists. They are actually using some different medias around the world, using CNN, Washington Post, even Persian broadcasting media, to actually saying that the human rights issue should be separated from the nuclear deal. This is wrong, and that actually hurts Iranian people. We, the people of Iran, have been suffering from sanction which has been opposed by the regime on us. Before the sanction from foreign countries, we, the people of Iran, have been suffering from corruption, from sanction which the Islamic Republic imposed on us. And that is why I want to actually make it clear here People were saying that the regime was saying that our people are suffering from sanction, but at the same time, the budget of the Revolutionary Guard was increased, and the Revolutionary Guard is in the sanction in the terrorist is listed in the terrorist organization. At the same time, when our government in Iran claiming that we are suffering from sanction, at the same time, the budget of all the religious institutions were increased in Iran. The budget of morality police was increased in Iran. That is why people are furious in trying to make the rest of the world understand that you should not trust this regime. You cannot have a deal with this regime without actually considering about human rights. More important than this, right now that I'm talking to you, Swedish citizen, the US citizen, the UK citizen, French citizen, German citizen are in Iranian prison. Why? They are being used like bargaining chip. And that is why I strongly believe that if the US government is very desperate to have a deal with Iran, Iranian people do not care what they want, what the rest of the world want. Iranian people are really want to get rid of this regime. The Islamic Republic is against our dignity, is against not our freedom. They are a threat to the whole world. I named all these countries that they have their own citizen on Iranian notorious prison, Evin prison. And that is why I strongly believe that the European countries should get united with the US and ask for the release of their own political prisoners. Ask for human rights. We cannot just go and, if they are looking for stability in the region, they cannot just go and negotiate with one of the most unstable regime without recognizing the civil society and the human rights abuse in Iran.
That's an important message, Masih. Thank you very much. Let me now move to a different subject, and that is Afghanistan. For the past weeks, you've been in constant contact with women on the ground, and once again, giving voice to the voiceless. Could you tell us a little bit what you're hearing? What do these women have to say?
To be honest, I don't even have a word to explain about this tragedy. It is beyond sad that the whole world is watching that the women of Afghanistan are losing their rights overnight. And I strongly believe that all people who lived under Sharia law, they totally understand the feeling of the people of Afghanistan right now. When I see that the spokesman of Taliban use different medias saying that we are going to respect human rights, we are going to respect women's rights, but under the framework of Sharia laws, it just breaks my heart. Because it just reminds me of the time that 42 years ago, Ruhollah Khomeini said the same things from France before going to Iran, before taking, overthrowing the previous regime. He was claiming the same thing that now the spokesman of Taliban claiming. And what breaks my heart, it's some of the analysts and academics, like some of the journalists and activists outside Iran, basically helped Ruhollah Khomeini, and they normalized such a brutal regime. And we keep hearing right now, they are calling Taliban, like they are doing the same about Taliban as well, normalizing Taliban by saying that, let's see which part of Taliban gonna make decision, the moderate part of Taliban or the conservative part of Taliban. That breaks my heart, because I'm in touch with many women from Afghanistan. I got bombarded by videos from women within the society, from Kabul, from Herat, from different cities across Afghanistan. And we have to give the platform to them to be heard, because those are the women who knows about Sharia law or freedom under Sharia laws. Taliban never changed. The only thing that I can say that Taliban has changed is that, yes, they are more sophisticated about using social media, about using Western media to promote themselves. And they have changed and became more sophisticated to convince some of the analysts and journalists and activists in the West to actually give a wrong narrative in calling that Taliban has moderate part as well. That is the only thing that I have to say that Taliban has changed. Otherwise, Taliban is like the Islamic Republic. They will kill people under Sharia law. They will butcher women under Sharia law. They will like humiliate you don't matter. It doesn't matter whether you are from Afghanistan or you are from Iran. You are going to suffer from Taliban and ISIS and the Islamic Republic everywhere around the world. They are like a threat for all the national security around the world, not just the women in Afghanistan or in Iran. And I'm warning all the international community, if you ignore the women of Afghanistan, then you have to fight Taliban mindset people in the West. They are going to make problems for the whole world. They're not going to stay in Afghanistan forever. That's my concern.
So what you're saying is that the ideology will move, that it won't stay localized, it won't stay in Afghanistan.
They can export, Taliban will export its own ideology to the rest of the world. Like ISIS. To me, Taliban, ISIS, and Islamic Republic are more dangerous and deadlier than coronavirus. They can infect the rest of the world. When we, the women of Iran and Afghanistan, are fighting against religious dictatorship, then some of the feminists around the world keep silence. I have to say that this is not an internal matter. We are fighting for the rights of all women around the world because we know that they're going to.
So let me just ask you on this. Sorry, let me just ask you, stop you on this, because I think it's a very important point. You just said that there are feminists who don't say anything specifically about, they're not supporting women in Iran. They're not supporting women today in Afghanistan. How do you explain this? Why is that?
I really don't even want to talk about those feminists who keep silent. I'm really furious about those feminists who are normalizing the Islamic Republic. I mean, you better keep silent. When I see that some of the analysts and feminists, some of them, saying that compulsory hijab is not a big deal, it just makes me furious. Sometimes it makes me cry because they have never lived under Sharia laws. They have never experienced lashing. Look, as a woman, if I go in public and say that I don't want to cover myself and I want to protest against compulsory hijab, I get lashes. Women in my country, they are not like, it's just unbelievable. This is 21st century. They're like second-class citizens. Women of Afghanistan, they live in fear. Some of them got stuck at home. They have like amazing record of being activists, journalists, TV presenter, athletes, filmmakers, but they lost their rights overnight. And now the spokesman of Taliban saying that actually it's not a big deal. We just they are allowed to come in public. They just need to wear hijab. And I keep hearing this from some of the feminists saying that in the West they say that hijab became fashionable. It's not a big deal. I get goosebumps. It's like, oh my God. You say that my body, my choice is an important slogan in America. But when it comes to Middle East and women of Afghanistan, women of Iran, we say that my body, my choice. I don't want Sharia law making decision for my body. Then you say that this is not a big deal because hijab became more fashionable. So I'm going to be clear. When I see the feminists and female politicians from your country going to my beloved country, Iran, by obeying compulsory hijab laws without saying a single word about it, I'm going to be very clear. That is a total betrayal to feminism, to their own sisters in the Middle East. How come you call yourself a feminist government from Sweden? I mean, they are so powerful women. The high representative of the EU went to my country. Swedish feminists went to my country. They wore compulsory hijab in their meeting with Javad Zarif, in their meeting with Iranian president, without challenging this discriminatory laws. Why? They say this is just, you know, it's a law, and we don't want to break country laws. You're kidding me. I always say that the slavery used to be legal, but forget about that. Imagine the West come up with an idea saying that there is a law. All the female politicians from Iran, when they visit the United Nations, when they visit the European countries, they have to remove their hijab. What would the Islamic Republic do? They say that, oh, this is a law and we have to respect the law in the West. No, they will protest. And I want to give you another example. Imagine there is a tournament in America. There is a tournament in Sweden, in Germany, in France. And the condition of this international tournament, which happened to be in America or in France, is this: all women are allowed to participate until they remove their hijab. What would the global feminist movement do? They would stand with their Muslim sisters and saying that you're not allowed to force them to remove their hijab. But this is happening in Iran right now. International chess tournament happened to be in Iran. The condition was that all women should cover themselves. The feminists were silent. One chess champion from America protested, saying that I don't want to be forced to wear hijab. I'm going to boycott this tournament. I'm not going to attend in this tournament because of my dignity. Guess what happened? Some of the feminists attacked her on New York Times, saying that, no, you have to go to Iran to empower women of Iran. The same chess players escaped from Iran and now saying to the rest of the world that we were like a hostage. The government were using us. We were like slaves in the hand of the regime. But they were being quoted in New York Times saying that, please come to my country and wear hijab. Please come and help us. And some of the feminists use those to attack us. This is actually empowering the regime to put more pressure on Iranian women. The silence and supporting compulsory hijab by saying that this is a small issue. You're empowering the regime to put more pressure on us.
Thank you, Masih. I think it's important that you explain this, because I think you lost me. Do you hear me?
Now I hear you. I hear you.
Okay, sorry. So no, I think it was important what you just mentioned, because I think it clarifies why the issue of compulsory hijab is so important and so symbolic for you as a fight.
Yeah, it is a symbol. I mean, you're right. I have to say this is a symbol. We are not fighting against compulsory hijab like a small piece of cloth. Compulsory hijab is the most visible symbol of oppression. Compulsory hijab is the main pillar of a religious dictatorship like ISIS, Taliban, Islamic Republic. 3 of these religious groups, when they took power, they forced you as a woman to carry their own ideology on your body. So we, the women, are carrying their ideology by force. And that is why I'm saying that we are fighting against compulsory hijab means that we are fighting against the main pillar of a religious dictatorship.
Absolutely. Masih, I could speak to you for far longer, but I want to give our audience the opportunity to ask some questions, because I know that there are many. So I will pass it on to Claire for some Q&A.
Thank you.
Sure.
Our first question comes from Hugh Matthews in Los Angeles, who asks, There have recently been so-called elections in Iran. I know you actually call them a selection. Could you speak to us a little bit about Ebrahim Raisi? What does this mean for Iran and the Iranian people?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So-called election, because we call it selection, because all the candidates have been picked up by the supreme leader of Iran, then we can vote for them. So Ebrahim Raisi is the mass murderer. We don't even call him Ebrahim Raisi. We call him Ayatollah Massacre. We call him the butcher of Iran, because he was the one, actually, he ordered the executions of 5,000 political prisoners. When he was the head of judiciary system in Iran in 2000, like 2 years ago, just 2 years ago, 1,500 people got killed and 7,000 people got arrested. When Ebrahim Raisi was the head of the judiciary system in Iran, a woman called Sabah Kordafshari was only 20-year-old, received 24 years prison sentence just because of removing her hijab. Yasaman Aryani, another woman of White Wednesday's campaign, received 16 years prison sentence just because of removing her hijab. So that is why they believe that this is not an election. He was selected to oppress people because now the regime needs some like people like Ebrahim Raisi to control the society, because they know that people are furious with this regime, are fed up with this regime. And we had 2 massive protests. So the way that they were controlling people were just executing protesters, arresting them, killing them. Now Ebrahim Raisi has been picked up by the supreme leader of Iran because they know that people want to get rid of this regime. So they need a president like him to control the society, to prevent the coming protest, any possible protest like the massive one we had a couple of years ago.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Felice Gear in New York, who asks, the UN has established an expert to monitor and regularly report on human rights in Iran and has been outspoken in opposition to the prison conditions and torture that is routine in Iran. He's also denounced the odious practice of hostage taking. What can be done to better expose the disgraceful way that foreign citizens are being captured and held as hostages in Iran's prisons? How can we help get them freed? And why do foreign governments pay these ransoms?
First of all, I have to say that every single person who hears me can do an important job by sending letters, emails, tweeting about the dual national citizens who are in Iranian prison right now. You can make your own local politicians accountable. Ask them that why you don't take a strong action. Because now it is about Swedish citizen, American citizen, the UK citizen, German citizen, French citizen. But if the whole world keeps silent, the regime gonna use this tactic to arrest more dual national citizens. So that is why I think that every single person can do something important by making awareness, pushing the local politicians to take a strong action. You know, one of the French citizens, he was a tourist. Benjamin got arrested just because of, you know, taking picture of himself by some women in the background who were unveiled. And now they call him a spy and he's in prison. Nazanin Zaghari, the UK citizen, she's a mother. She's in prison. She's an innocent prisoner. She's being used like a bargaining chip. Swedish professor is in prison just because of being used like bargaining chip, because the regime want to, you know, they assassinate some innocent people in the West. So they sent their own terrorist groups in the West to assassinate dissidents. And now they want to make these terrorists free from Western prison. That is why they took some hostages, the Western professors, journalists, activists, tourists. They use them like bargaining chip to make money or release their own terrorists from Western prison. That's so simple. And that is why I strongly believe even for ordinary tourists, it's not safe to travel to my beloved country, Iran. As far as the Islamic Republic is in power, they are going to be a threat to every single human being around the world. That is why we have a responsibility to make awareness, to send letters to our local politicians around the world and make them accountable, make them responsible, and make them to take a strong action against the Islamic Republic, because taking hostage is in the DNA of the Islamic Republic. If we keep silent, the next is going to be you.
Our next question comes from Sherwin David in Chicago, who asks, can you speak a bit about 2009 and the election that led to the Green Movement, and also set free some of the ideas about freedom that are still out there? You've mentioned previously that it ended up exiling you, so if you could expand there also.
2009 protest was about middle class. So it was about the beginning, it was about the election. People took to the street first, they said that, where is my vote? Then when they killed more than 100 people, people were asking, where is my brothers? Where is my right? I want to take my country back. They went beyond that. And that is why in 2019, there was a massive protest, November protest. It was not just the middle class. It was the working class as well. It started from small cities, and then, more than 100 cities took to the streets. And this time it was different. From the beginning, from the first day, people were protesting against the whole regime. So I have to say that if there was a hope, even me, I had hope that we can have a reform within the society. But now the reformist people, the reformist politicians heard that in the massive protest, that people were saying that now we want the Islamic Republic, the whole regime, to be gone. They were actually chanting Islah Talab, Usulgara, Dige Tamum Majara, which means reformist, conservative, it's over. Your time is over. So that was the difference between 2009 demonstrations in Iran and two massive protests that we had in 2019, a couple of years ago, that people are against the whole regime.
Our next question comes from Sarah Weston in Boston, who asks, some observers have warned about potential galvanization of Islamists around the world following the Taliban's seizure of power in Afghanistan. Is it something that you also fear, especially repercussions on European and American soil?
Oh, I always say that when we, the women of the Middle East, are fighting against ISIS, fighting against Taliban, fighting against the Islamic Republic, we are actually fighting against extremism and exporting the ideology of these terrorist organizations, terrorist government, to the rest of the world. Miles away, I thought I'm safe in America. But what happened? Ruhollah Zam used to think that he was safe in France. And many other Iranian dissidents were thinking the same for more than 40 years ago. The poet Feridun Farrokhzad, one of the well-known character, Bakhtiyar, I cannot believe that he got assassinated in front of his house in France. He was part of the previous regime. He got assassinated in Paris. And many other dissidents, more than 500 dissidents, got assassinated or were the target of the Islamic Republic to be assassinated in 40 years. So that is why I say that it's not about me. It's not about Iranian. It's not about the women of Afghanistan. It is about the whole world. This is a national security issue for the Western country, for Americans as well. As far as the Islamic Republic is in power, Taliban is in power, no one should feel safe around the world, because they are going to, send the extremists, their ideology around the world. This is what I actually expressed myself in my meeting with the officials in Canada, in the European Parliament, in White House. When I met with the officials, I said that when you betray the women of Afghanistan, when you desperately just want to have deal with Iran, you have to you have to expect Taliban and the extremists to hurt us, the US citizens, the Western citizen, on the US soil, on the European soil as well. That is very, this is the whole, I mean, this is the dangerous things, which I compare them to coronavirus. And I always say that these extremists are like the virus. They're going to infect the rest of the world. They're not going to stay in the region, in the Middle East.
Thank you. Our last question comes from Patricia Walters in Miami, who asks, what's your message to the women in the region? How can those of us watching support them?
To be honest, I think that I don't have a message for the women who live in Iran or Afghanistan or in the region. They have a message for us. They are fearless. To me, women of Afghanistan, women of Iran, women of who are fighting in the face of Taliban, in the face of the Islamic Republic, they are like women of suffragists. They are risking their lives because they have a message to the rest of the world. They have a dream. They want to get rid of religious dictatorship. They want to get rid of Taliban. They want to get rid of Islamic Republic. And they want us to be their voices. We have to listen to their voices. We should not betray them. What breaks my heart, I think, in a month, the media are going to bury the news of women of Afghanistan. And we might face some of the analysts saying that although we've never been in Afghanistan, although we've never been in Iran, but we believe that Taliban has changed. We believe that hijab became more fashionable in Afghanistan. That breaks my heart because we have experienced that a lot. Here, we, the women who live in exile, the women of the Middle East who live in exile, we have to fight two battles. First, with the regime in Iran, and second, with some of the wrong narrative in the West, trying to downplay our cause, trying to downplay our fight and normalizing the Islamic Republic. That is our struggle. And that is why I'm scared. One day, the women of Afghanistan, now who are desperately leaving their country, they may face the same narrative in the West, telling them that we know Taliban better than you do. So my message is this to the Western media, to international community, to the United Nations: give your platform to the women who lived under Sharia law. They are the one, they can give you a better picture of Taliban, Islamic Republic, and ISIS. That's my message.
Masih, thank you so much. You are an inspiration.